The first game of the Sweet 16 is my BYU Cougars
Excuse me.
against your Alabama
Oh,
Crimson Tide.
you got a lot of nerve. Okay. I've been there since day one in Provo with you arm in arm. And we are now here, and you're trying to throw me on the Crimson Tide? The I start Jaron Stevenson Crimson Tide? How dare you? I just called him the Crimson Five. Maryland has me in hell. But we got ourselves an elite matchup.
I got a lot of nerve, don't I, Carter? You thought Mark Pope would go take 'em farther. Our draw was hard, but Bama makes it harder. But we're
Uh,
kick their ass.
uh.
I forgot I'm not supposed to swear. This is for the Provo fans, I swear. That's all I got. I'm so sleep deprived. All I can think is in musical forms right now.
That's fine.
I'm really excited for this game. Really excited for this game because these are two of the more fun teams to watch in all of college basketball that honestly play with a lot of the same principles. These are teams that bomb threes, that have physicality inside, athleticism, play finishers, kind of the dunker spot, teams that want to play fast and get out and run. And I think this is going to lead to one of the most watchable Sweet 16 games that any of us have ever seen. Now, there's some variance potential here because either one of these teams could go cold from three. It could end up being a blowout, honestly, with the style of play. It would not surprise me whatsoever if either of these teams won this game by 20 plus points. But if we get an A game from both teams, I expect this to be one of the all-time enjoyable games to watch, one of the all-time entertaining games to pay attention to, and maybe an all-time classic. That is my genuine expectation here, Cart. Do you think that's a crazy line to draw ahead of this game?
No, I don't think so because I think there was some doubts in the last game for BYU as far as like what that game against Wisconsin would look like because you and I we watched enough basketball and just and tournament games in general. Typically, when you have two high-powered offenses, you think it's going to be fireworks, and then it kind of ends up not being that, right? Like it just doesn't work out that way. That wasn't the case in the BYU Wisconsin games. There was a lot of points in that game, a lot of free throws too. Shout to John Tanji, my word. But yeah, no, I think this is shaping up to be an instant classic between two coaches whose philosophies I love as well. Like I just love what Oats does with Bama as far as, the shots that he wants to take is threes and layups, right? Threes and layups and dunks. That's all he wants to do. And then Coach Young is just, if there was a most improved coach in the country like throughout the year, like what they started as and what they are now, I think he would get my award, truly. Like I just think that the way he's reinvented this team and guys have settled into their roles is a lot to do with kind of how he coaches this team up. And now, he knocks off VCU in the first round, knocks off Wisconsin. Now he has a chance to go to an Elite Eight, and what's standing in front of him is one of the young gun hot coaches in the game. Like Coach Oates is up there with who people consider to be the next up of coaches. You beat that coach, and then you have a chance at Duke, or sorry, not Duke. You have a chance at to go to the Final Four in the next opponent. That's a legacy type run that could happen in year one for Coach Young.
Yeah, I talked about it pre-tournament, but like I was really upset with the BYU draw because if you drop them anywhere on the left side of my bracket, I was going to pick them to the Final Four, maybe to the title game. I think they've been playing that good. And you drop them in the region with Duke, who's my national championship pick. We'll get to that game when we get there. But like this being a Sweet 16 game is great for the sport when in reality, Cart, this is going to feel like a Final Four game to me. I think that's how good these two teams have been playing. You go back to February 11th, BYU in their last 12 games, the fourth best team in the country per Torvik Cart. They're 11-1 outright. Let's just make it clear the caliber that this team has been playing in their last 12 games. They're only behind Duke, Houston, and Florida. Ain't those the three best teams in the country? And BYU's right behind them. BYU's ahead of Auburn right now. That's the version of BYU you're about to get in the Sweet 16 is that team, not the team they were before this. And if you're wondering where's Alabama, oh, pretty damn good. Seventh in the country in Bar Torvik in that span. So these are two of the seven best teams in the country, in my opinion. And it's a shame they have to play this early in the tournament, but it's also a great thing for basketball fans because it's going to be really fun. Um, I want to go back to the coaching point you mentioned. You talked about how great Young has been and who Oates is in general. I made a tweet last night that honestly was pushing some narratives against certain guys that are lower down the list. But in the process of doing that, I tallied up the most second weekend appearances for any coach in the last 5 years. And Calvin Sampson's number one in the sport. He's the only guy who's made a Sweet 16 5 consecutive years. Mark Few just missed one for the first time. He's fourth. Nate Oates is right there. And it's kind of one of those things. I feel like it's sort of generally accepted, but not talked about all that much right now, that Oates is supposed to be the guy who like inherits the sport right now.
Mhm.
Like Sampson is one of the old guard guys. Few is talking retirement right now. Izzo is still going. Patino is still going. But there's supposed to be this like handoff to the next generation of who is the face of the portal NIL era for the next 20 years of basketball. It is supposed to be Nate Oates. And quite frankly, I think it is Nate Oates. I think he's doing things that, quite frankly, like other guys that are put in the same realm with him. Todd Golden's had a great year. Tommy Lloyd's had a great year. Oates has been doing this for 5 years consistently. He's not like breaking out of his shell for the first time. He does this every year at this point. He makes Alabama a top 5 team in the sport. They make deep runs in the tournament, and at some point he's going to get over the hump. Do you agree with me that Oates is that guy at a broad level in the sport right now?
100%. I think that he gets talent, right? Like he's had Mark Sears, he's had draft picks as well that we've seen, like with guys like Brandon Miller. I just think that Oates is one of the best in this game. One with just his philosophy and the style of play that he has, but also how he builds teams. This Alabama team is talented. Like if you're just having like a talent off, top to bottom, what this team has on this roster and what this team can utilize is amongst the best in the country. Whether it's Sears, Nelson, Philon, Holloway, they even got guys like Darion Reed who are now getting back in the rotation after being injured. Cliff Omarui. Then they have like guys like Chris Youngblood who can just knock down a bunch of shots. This is a deep and talented Alabama team. And, I feel like some people coming into this tournament, even me to a certain extent, I was like, what if this team kind of slips up though? Like, what if things don't come together? What if like Grant Nelson isn't fully healthy? But at the end of the day, they got a first team All American in Mark Sears and a bunch of talent around him. And Nate Oates is a really good basketball coach. And Bama's one of the best teams in the country.
So the interesting part of this, both with the teams and the coaches right now, is that it's Oats's philosophy mostly, right? Like there are some coaches who like are great tacticians in game and oh, it's a tie game with a minute left. That guy's going to draw something up great, or maybe you have recruiting chops. Oates is good at everything. I don't mean to say he's not. But the thing that makes Oates like the guy is basically his philosophy. He's going to win the math challenge of a basketball game every game. He's always going to shoot more threes than you. His team's never going to take tough twos. It's dunks, it's threes, and over 40 minutes, it's really hard to beat. And you sprinkle in the talent he is getting from the portal, the talent he is recruiting at the prep level. It's a machine right now. If I could build in a lab what my program looked like, it would look like Nate Oates' program minus the scummy side of Nate Oates.
Yeah,
But
100%.
the thing for me that's interesting, Cart, is I feel like Oates has been very singular. There aren't many coaches who can even try and do what Oates is doing. In steps Kevin Young, who, Cart, I think in 1 year is doing what Nate Oates is doing. I haven't seen any other coach do this, but BYU plays the same brand of basketball. They're actually better at shooting from 3-point range. He's crushing recruiting on the prep level. He's crushing recruiting the portal. He's bringing guys back. They play a fun brand. They win the math battle of every single. They literally play the same style, and I think that's the interesting part of this challenge for Bama is like, when's the last time in an NCAA tournament game Bama saw a team that Bama's them? I don't think that's ever happened. And I'm very curious what Nate Oates is going to do to try to handle this because you're basically playing the same thing as you. Just you don't have Mark Sears. You have some different guys. You have Richie Saunders, but it's stylistically identical. What do you think that's going to mean for Alabama and the way they approach this game?
Can I tell you my initial reaction?
Yeah.
That scares me.
For who?
That scares me for BYU because I love BYU, and obviously they're playing really good basketball, but I don't know if my best point of attack is I want to out Bama Bama. Like they could, but like in my head, just saying that to myself, I don't have the best feeling about that. I'm thinking more when I've seen Bama be vulnerable this year, and they've been better at it, but I think they get out tough. They get kind of mentally broken down. Like Sears takes himself out. Oats is having issues with Sears. They turned the ball over 22 times at home against Ole Miss. I think this team does have a little wee bit of like they could fall apart ish like mentality to them, but it's not by just out bamaing them as you kind of put it. It would be like the physicality standpoint of it. The fact that like Keba Keita is just like this force down low and Boost comes in and he holds it down in the paint and they just find it where, you know, I guess it would be sort of out Alabama in this case. Like they are just really successful at getting good shots and getting to the rim, which they've been great at. Like Richie Saunders has been really good. One of the best. Richie Saunders has been crazy. I would say it on every single video. But what he does for this BYU team is nice. And Yegor's getting comfortable now.
Yeah.
Like this is shaping up to be an all-timer.
Yeah, Yegor's been sensational in the tournament. He's been exactly what they wanted to get at the beginning of the season, and I do think Richie, being who he's become, has made that really easy on Yegor to slide next to him. Yeah, I to your point, I think I agree with you. The concept of we will out Alabama, I think is a losing recipe
Hmm.
for anybody. However, I could also see it going the other way for Oats and Sears in general and Bama of like, wait a second, are like 15 minutes into this game, wait, why isn't our thing creating the separation? You know?
Wait a minute. They're doing the thing that we do to them, and our thing is not. Why are they out thinging us?
Yeah, because I think it's one of those things where even if Bama's missing shots, the way they play still leads to advantages for them. So like 15 minutes into a game, oh, we're missing all our shots, but like we'll start to make them and we will wear them down over 40 minutes because we are going to shoot more threes than you. What if they look up 15 minutes in this game and it's like, wait a second, we're not creating the separation because they're shooting the same shots as us? Huh? Like that does what do we do, right? I could see that happening to Sears. It's almost like this. I don't want to say they're a one-trick pony, but the philosophy is pretty one-trick pony-ish from Bama. It's we do what we do. We ain't adjusting. We're Bama. And that intrigues me because I will say, as Torvik alludes to, I think BYU's been playing at or above Alabama's level for a month.
Mm.
So you're going to have to outplay them. You're going to have to make the plays, and it makes this a really intriguing game. I have two categoric things looking at the profiles of these teams that I think could be swing pieces that decide the game. Before I reveal mine, do you have anything that you're particularly focused on as important in this game for either team?
Yeah. It doesn't come down to that, but I must say this BYU offense actually might be better at the Bama thing because they actually do shoot the three ball well.
Yep.
Like that's what it like if this becomes a 3 point off, give me BYU. Like the numbers point to that. I believe in that. And BYU is just as good from 2 point range as well. And the one thing I also look at is that in the BYU games they have lost this season, I think it's been like turnovers, not getting good shots type of things, right? Bama's one of the worst teams in the country at forcing turnovers. That's not what they do. They're a solid defense. They're top 30 in the country in defensive efficiency, but they are 352nd in the country at forcing turnovers. They just don't force turnovers.
Yeah.
So you're telling me BYU is going to be comfortable and get to run their offense? That makes me feel good about BYU.
Said that before the Wisconsin game. I don't think you can stop the BYU offense with a conservative approach. And Alabama's defense very much is a conservative approach to me. So I do like it from there. The two areas I'm keeping an eye on. Number one, is Alabama making threes or not? This should almost always be the top thing on the scouting report with every Alabama game. It sounds stupid and overly simple, but the weakness for this BYU defense is 3 point defense. They don't limit attempts and they don't limit percentage. The weak spot with this team that is legitimately a weak spot is they don't guard the 3-point line well. And that is never a good thing if you are an Alabama opponent. Now, there's an argument to be made with this Alabama team, Cart, that they aren't the shooters that previous Alabama teams have been. So they have been vulnerable and susceptible at times to shooting themselves out of a game playing this style. Jaron Stevenson goes 0 for 7 from 3 or something crazy like that.
Mhm.
There's a world where Alabama's just cold and they can't take advantage of BYU's 3-point defense. There's also a world where Alabama just goes nuclear and you have no answer. So I don't think there's much rhyme or reason to that, but I will say this. I don't think the BYU defense will determine that. I think this will come down to whether or not Alabama shooters are making open shots. They are going to get open shots in this game, and that's probably advantage Alabama.
Will they hit him?
I don't know. It's a coin flip.
Hmm.
I expect Mark Sears to hit him.
See, that's
He's going
how
to
I feel. So okay, so yeah, so I mean, it seems simple when you do say that, but I feel like it does come down to because if they are hitting threes, then shit, you're gonna have to battle. You're gonna have to then you're gonna have to go like a you're gonna have to win the game like 100 and what that Alabama Florida game look like? I think Florida won like 107 to 100. That might
hmm
what it might have to be what it looked like if you want to win that game,
hmm
which is
Yeah, I agree.
possible.
Could happen. Both teams could do that, so could happen. On the BYU side, here's what I have my eye on that I think they can exploit. You mentioned the turnovers offensively shouldn't be an issue. That's a good thing for BYU. For me, I think BYU is going to need to generate second chance points here. They're 68th country in the country in offensive rebounding. Alabama's surprisingly not a good defensive rebounding team, just perfectly average, which doesn't really map with how much size they have, with how many athletes they have in the front court. That's just been a weak spot for them this year. Part of it, I think, is that they kind of I don't know. They leak out a lot, right? They're so focused on hunting transition opportunities that I think sometimes they just get lazy on that end. But you can't be lazy in defensive rebounding against BYU. BYU with Keita, with Foose, even with Yegor crashing, will go in and get these rebounds. I think that's a vulnerability for Bama that BYU can exploit and probably needs to. Because you flip it, BYU is a great defensive rebounding team. A big portion of what Alabama does offensively is crash the glass.
Mhm.
If BYU can limit Alabama's second chances and generate their own second chances, suddenly you're talking about a BYU offense with more possessions, more shots, and they're already the better shooting team.
Mhm.
And two teams are playing the identical style, but one can shoot and generate second chances, one can't. Huge advantage BYU if that plays true, I think.
Yeah, especially because Keita and Boost together had just become this monster rebounding pair, this physical, both a little bit different style. Foose is built more like me, but he's my hero. I want to make that very known. Would love to go by Foose Elliott if given the chance. And Keita is just like this 6'8" big with a 7'14" wingspan. Who I kid you not, every time I see him play, he looks like prime Dwight Howard. The dude is just a monster. And he steps up to the challenge too. Like you put him up against like bigger bigs. I know that you know this all too well, and I know you don't give them as much credit, but like he saw Steven Crowell and Nolan Winter across from him and said, "Yeah, y'all aren't tough enough." Um,
Yeah.
and he will look, and I'm not saying it's going to work, but he will look at Cliff Omarui. He will look at the other front court Bama members and say, let's go tough for tough. I'm willing to battle. Let's see what happens." And you know what? I don't doubt him in that situation.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. Best player in this game is Mark Sears.
Yes.
We shouldn't have to hesitate on
We,
that,
I
right?
didn't mean to hesitate there. Yes, Mark Sears is easily the best player in this game.
I meant to hesitate.
Stop,
We
stop,
shouldn't have to, but I meant
stop,
to.
stop,
Shouldn't have to, but I meant to, Cart.
stop, stop.
He's in single digits in 2 of his last 5 games. He's made, let me just make
Okay,
sure I'm counting this correctly, Cart.
look,
Uh,
call me at here. Eyes here. Hey, eyes,
Carter,
eyes,
listen, ears,
eyes.
ears. Mark Sears is 5 for his last 35 from three. Can you give me some math on that?
Not good.
5 for 35.
Not ideal.
He's the best player in this game, but if he shoots 14% from three like he has for the last 2 weeks combined, I would take Richie Saunders.
Ooh,
5 for 35 is crazy.
private.
Uh,
But he's
can I
got
get your player trust rankings in this game? Go. Give me your top five.
Sears, Nelson,
Nelson ahead of anybody on BYU.
been there, Final Four, has shown me in the tournament. Respect that run that he had last year. He showed it. Got to give him the nod there. Um, After that, give me Richie, give me a bunch of BYU players. To be honest with you,
Okay, so it's just the big two for Bama. You don't trust anybody else. No Phylon?
I trust like Saunders more in this spot. I trust even at this point. I trust Yegor more.
Phylon's been super stinky lately.
Yeah, I just trust him more.
Cliff Amoria has actually been great lately. He could maybe earn on the trust meter for me.
Don't do Rutgers, guys.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I didn't mention
Uh,
Mawat Mag at all when I should.
I'm going Richie Saunders number one on my trust meter. Grant Nelson two. Mark Sears three. Kada four. Trevin Nell five shooter. Love
Dude,
him. Love him. Yeah. So you last thing and then prediction. You do think like Final Four experience is going to come into play in a big way here for Bama.
maybe not a big way, but I do think it's a factor. Yeah.
Okay. Just like the team.
This is the biggest game that BYU players and coach have played in. This is not the biggest game that Bama has played in.
Basically a team on a mission that's looking further than just this game. We've been here. We have something to prove versus the team that's already overachieved, kind of gotten where they're supposed to, right? They've accomplished already a huge success. Their mission is complete versus their mission isn't type of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that. I disagree with that, but I can see that. Let's get to our prediction. Ken Palm has Alabama favored by 5 here. What's your prediction?
It is not lost on me that when you dated back a month, dated back 2 months, dated back any time towards the start of this season, BYU has been one of the best teams in the country for good reason, because this team is damn good and they are playing well. And oh, by the way, can I sweeten the pot for you a little bit? Now our lottery pick point guard is actually playing like a lottery pick point guard on top of everything else. Can I ask you another thing here too, G? Real quick before I do my prediction, I go full there.
Sure.
Who's Mark Sears guarding?
Dallin Hall.
Okay, that didn't expect that to go there. That backfired to guard. But with that said, all I'm saying is that I got a 6'8" point guard against a team that doesn't force turnovers. The only thing that off puts him is when he turns it over, and he's going to be able to see over whoever's guarding him, basically. And he's just going to be picking your defense apart. And also, I'm going to pick the team that hits threes. I trust one team to hit threes more than I trust the other team to hit threes. And even if it comes down to a battle where threes aren't being hit, I also trust BYU offensively more than I trust Bama defensively right now. I'm fine standing on that. Give me BYU in this basketball game. The run continues. Um, it's going to take a better team. Not a better team. I don't want to say that. All I'm going to say is I think that BYU is playing better right now, and I think there's some shit to this season for them as well.
I have been screaming it from the gallows for 6 weeks.
Gallows.
I told people before this run even began that a run was coming. And then the run came, and every step of the way I've been screaming BYU's playing like a top 5 team in the country. They are. They are playing like the better basketball team. You want to add the full sum of the season? It's close. Bama's better. But the version that has been here for 12 games of BYU is as good as Houston and Duke, and well, not Duke, but Houston and Florida. And I think they deserve that respect. I'll be picking BYU in this game as well. I don't think you beat BYU by not putting any pressure on them defensively. And Alabama doesn't do that. They're going to lay back, basically. try to bait you into mid-range shots. I think BYU will find their ways to get their three-point shots going here. Richie Saunders can get guys in foul trouble. And I'm going to do a Sean Kingston parody in the recap of this game if BYU gets this win.
To what song?
Them BYU different hoops. Nate Oats shit will never work. Those guys be suicidal, suicidal when their season's over. BYU beautiful hoops.
To the moon. It is March, and that means that March Madness is upon us. And if you are looking for a place to play, Underdog Fantasy has you covered. Sign up and deposit using code SLEEPERS, that's code SLEEPERS, to receive up to $1,000 in bonus credit plus a free pick. Head over to Underdog Fantasy today and use promo code SLEEPERS to take advantage of this amazing offer.